Good evening, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome in to the Big Man on Campus podcast. I am your host, the Big Man on Campus. Hope you're having a great Tuesday, April 16th, 2019. We'll get to some baseball tonight. We'll get to some NBA tonight. We got NBA playoffs, and we might even talk a little hockey. We'll see what we can do as far as that's concerned. I hope you're having a great day. Juventus, they are out of the Champions League. Obviously, a huge loss for me. I'm a big Juventus fan. And look, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to come right out and say it. Peter Loshek's going to join us here in just a little bit. We'll have him on to talk some baseball and basketball. We'll also talk with our friend Andrew McGinnis. He'll join us around 5:40 to talk a little hockey. So make sure you stick around for all that stuff. McGinnis is a great hockey man. And again, we will talk to Peter Loshek in just a second. But before we do it, I really want to get into quickly with Juventus. Look, this defense isn't good enough. It just isn't. There's been a long-standing issue with this defense. And look, we expect them to be what they were when Chiellini was back there, and Barzagli, and all those guys who were young and they were spry and they were able to move around. But again, look, I mean, this defense isn't that good. I mean, Buffon's not back there anymore. They need to start addressing it at the end of the day. These guys are old at this point. The fact that Barzagli's still on the bench is a little ridiculous. Go out and spend some money on a defender. You would expect guys like DeCilio and Rugani to play better, but they just haven't. To take a 1-0 lead in a game you had to have, you then lose the game 2-1 to fucking Ajax is really pathetic, frankly. And look, I don't want to hear from all these people that I got to give Ajax some credit. It's fucking Ajax. This isn't the 60s. This isn't a team that I have to worry about if I'm Juventus. If I'm Juventus, I should be able to go in and kick the shit out of them. It's that simple. You fucking allowing guys like Daley Blind and Dusan Tadic, who are fucking Premier League misfits, who went to another league and in fucking Holland. Give me a break. I mean, seriously, this is pathetic. At what point do we start putting Juve in the same group as PSG when it's time to close the deal? Yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible thing to say. Look, at the end of the day, this team just, they're always come up one level short. You can't put them up there with Barcelona, and you can't put them up with Real Madrid. You just can't do it because they continue to fail every time you need them to perform. Really pathetic, frankly. Peter Loshek is going to be joining us in just a second. In fact, I believe he is on the line now. Peter, how you doing?
I'm doing okay, big man. I'm a little bit annoyed. I want to be more on top of baseball than I actually am. This weekend, I'm going to be fully on top of it. Tonight's card also is very, very tricky, and I don't have a lot of bets. I remember the last show we did. I said you pinned me to everyone was like, give us your best bet, your one best bet, and I said I like Pomeranz to have a good start, right? And I gave Colorado team total under. That one did cash, and I definitely like Pomeranz going forward. Tonight's card is interesting. Obviously, Chris Sale is having some serious issues. The Yankees game is very interesting, but there's not a lot of bets that I'm loving tonight. A few bets that I did make, but I'm just a little bit annoyed. I wish I had more great plays that I was loving from tonight's card. There's a few plays I definitely hit for sure. But I'm just, in general, vaguely annoyed. And I'm a little bit annoyed that I was stuck in traffic coming on late to the show. To answer the question, slightly annoyed, a little annoyed. That's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, I know Brooklyn traffic can be a bear, and around this time, sure it is. But the great thing is, Peter, you're here. You actually came on right when I wanted you to, which is perfect. Welcome into everyone out there listening. If you do me a favor, please retweet the show. Get it out to people that might not know it's on. We got Peter on here today. We'll go over some baseball. Peter, you started with you kind of mentioned the Yankees, Boston. Obviously, a little bit of kind of shine has taken off this series a little bit. You obviously look at all the injuries right now that the Yankees are dealing with. You look at the fact that This Boston Red Sox team just really hasn't played very good. Chris Sale has struggled. He's got an ERA into the nines, which is quite amazing. I mean, you look at this Yankee lineup tonight. Obviously, dealing with a ton of injuries, but you look at guys like Giovanni Urshela, Mike Tauchman, Brett Gardner, Romine, Luke Voigt struggling. There's just not a lot of luster right now in this Yankee lineup. And for what it's worth, James Paxton hasn't been particularly good either, though he does have great numbers against the Mariners or with the Mariners against the Red Sox. Look, I'm going to be honest with you, Peter. I like the Red Sox in this game. I just do. I trust their lineup a little bit more. And I think Chris Sale will get it going. What do you think?
I'm staying off this one. I think that, I've been, people who know me, I've been fading Sale from the get-go. 3 starts so far. His velocity is down. Of course, he had injuries last year. And, the market, I don't think, has fully caught up to how, how reduced Sale's capability is right now from what we think of him. So, and I don't want to bet on Sale here. And Paxton's, his first 2 starts overall weren't that bad. His last start, was against Houston. There was some talk that he was tipping his pitches. It was kind of one bad start from Paxton. I don't think that Paxton's struggles this year are nearly as fundamental and likely to continue going forward as Sale's are. But, Boss has been better against lefties so far this year. I don't really want to bet on the Yankees here either. As of right now, this game is going to be a pass for me. I know some people are saying that they like the over here, which I can certainly see. But again, I'm not quite as down on Paxton as some people might be. I am down on Sale, but I'm not, as you said, the Yankees lineup is just kind of ugly right now. I can see a play on the over, but I'm passing on this one. I'm passing on it.
It's interesting, Peter, with Chris Sale. Obviously, he's had, if you look at his numbers, he's actually had very good numbers in Yankee Stadium. You're definitely getting a lineup here that is a little bit easier than the normal Yankee lineup you're going to face. So this might be a great spot to buy in on Chris Sale. You look at James Paxton, the numbers kind of on the surface, look, they're not indicative. James Paxton's not a 6 ERA guy. His numbers from an xFIP perspective are actually pretty decent. Go ahead.
He had one bad start against a great lineup where he might have been tipping his pitches, and other than that, unless we have some reason to believe that Paxton's injured, which I'm not seeing, which I haven't seen in my research, I think that Paxton going forward is going to be okay. So it's tough. I like the Red Sox lineup more tonight, but I definitely like Paxton more. So maybe a shot on the Red Sox second half would be warranted, but as of right now, I'm just staying off the game.
I'm never a big fan of doing this just because it's Yankee Stadium, but this could be a sneaky under maybe with 2 guys here that look, again, I know these lineups can break out at any point. I know these pitchers have both not pitched well, but I'm looking at really where I think these pitchers can be. And with the fact that they both have been fairly successful against the opposite lineups, that's kind of an interesting way. I think we're all kind of really understanding at this point, this is probably a game just to stay away from. I do want to make quickly an announcement. This is quite interesting, actually, just coming across the radar. And again, I'm a college basketball freak, so whenever I see stuff like this, I want to share it. Peter, obviously, you see a lot of guys are announcing that they're going to go to the draft, and they basically make it just a quick point. I'm going to the draft. We'll see you in a few weeks. Jared Culver from Texas Tech actually going to have a press conference 3:00 on Thursday. This might be big news if you're a Texas Tech fan, maybe to consider from a futures perspective. If Jared Culver somehow comes back, which if you had asked me what he's going to do, I think he's going to come back. I think this is basically making this clear. This could be a real interesting thing to get involved with if you can bet futures this early, which I'm sure you can't, but there might be a spot to maybe grab it. This is an interesting development. Quickly, a couple of people, Peter, very happy to see you.
Shout out to everyone who's happy to see me, and to everyone who's not. Shout out to you too.
Exactly. Guys, we have 2 living legends here. Show some love. Well, that's very nice. I'm not sure I'm a legend. I'm not sure there's nothing.
And I'm not sure I'm alive, but
Mikey D's
take the
in
compliment.
Here.
Thank you.
Exactly. We got Rem Most is in here. Funny B, Alex Ramirez, Jesse Dykstra. Pete, I do not know many things in life, but I do know the Pirates-Tigers game will go under the total of 8 runs. That's interesting. Let's just look over that game quickly here. 6:40. So if you're looking early, this game does go off a little early. Got Matt Boyd against Musgrove. Musgrove's been actually quite good. So is Matt Boyd. Two offenses here that aren't great. What do you think about his notion there, Peter?
Well, Detroit's not a good team, but they have been underperforming, and I did take a shot with Detroit earlier. The market has moved in their favor a bit. I'm not sure that they still have value at. Let's see where they are. I mean, they were a pretty significant dog when they opened, and now it's. Let me just see where Detroit is right now. I mean, Detroit is not a good team, but this is a spot where I'm looking to bet on them. Musgrove is great, but I think he comes back down to earth, and Boyd is legitimately great as well. Yes, both starting pitchers are excellent. I can see a play on the under. Hold on, let me just pull up another window here where I can see the totals. Yes, I can see a play on the under. I can definitely see a play on the first half under as well. I did take a shot with Detroit. And the under is it's down to 7.5. And let me just find where the first half under. Jeez, let me hold on. Sorry about that. Yes, I can certainly understand a play on the under. I didn't make that play. I did take a shot with Detroit, and that's my only play in this game so far. Although it's maybe last minute I will take a shot with the first half under. It's certainly very tempting to take a shot with that with both starting pitchers. I think both starting pitchers are for real. Feel like Musgrove's going to come back down to earth. I mean, obviously he's going to come, but he's not as good as he's been so far. I'm staying off the total. It's a low total. I can understand a play on the under, and I took a shot with Detroit.
Very good. Baseball's not being very kind to me early, but Peter, I had some interesting. I went 2-0 in the NBA last night, but Major League Baseball was tough. I didn't have anything real official though. Peter, I want to ask you, Tampa Bay, Baltimore. Obviously, you look at Glass now, 16 innings scoreless. He's been very good. You also look at the fact that you look at historically. Unders with a total of 8 or higher, are quite good. I think they're like 56% since 2005 in Tampa. Orioles have obviously struggled offensively. Look, I worry a bit about Tampa Bay maybe scoring some runs here. They are a pretty decent offense, but you got to figure, this under might look pretty good. I know sharp money's coming in on the under in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay sides and unders in Tampa were a pretty strong play for a long time. The market is starting to catch up. Now you're seeing minus 240s with Tampa Bay. I mean, Bundy's obviously legitimately vulnerable, legitimately awful. Tampa Bay should get to him. I don't want to lay minus 240 here with them. I've had some success picking my spots with Baltimore this year. They're a bad team, but I think they were a little bit undervalued in spots. And Baltimore again here on the second half. I took Baltimore on the second half in their last game at Boston, and that one cashed in the 11 a.m. game. And again, Baltimore on the second half at plus 130 is tempting. I didn't bet that one yet. I might bet it later on. Obviously, Glasnow's probably going to have a strong start. I could see a justifiable play on the Baltimore first half team total under 1.5. But I'm not playing that one. I'm taking this card kind of light. I didn't touch the Baltimore Tampa Bay game yet. If you gave me a free play on it right now, I'd take Baltimore second half at plus 130. But no play on it as of right now for me.
Yeah, good one. Definitely one I had my eye on. Another one I had my eye on. Padres Rockies. Looking at an under here. You look at John Gray. He's got no run support. This Colorado team has really had issues scoring runs. You look at this Nick Margavicic. This guy's been good. One run in 3 outings. These two offenses are generally pretty poor. I thought 7.5 was a pretty decent bargain out of Petco. Maybe going under here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That game I did not look into in depth enough. I didn't hit it on the overnight line, and obviously my first thought would be a shot with the under. But you have to be a little bit careful now with obvious unders in San Diego. And it makes me nervous. The total has gotten bet up since it opened. It opened at 7, now up to 7.5. If it hadn't been for traffic, I'd probably be able to give a more in-depth analysis of this one. But as of right now, it's a pass for me.
Yeah, we'll also make this clear. Back to Tampa Bay just for 1 second. In all of their wins this year, all 11 have come by 2 or more runs. So, or all 12 of them, I'm sorry. So, I mean, if you're look, I'm not in love with laying run lines with, a home team just because you're not always going to, you're not going to get the full 9 at bats. And if you do, it means you're down. So again, look, Dylan Bundy sucks. I mean, it's just that simple.
And high volatility with Bundy with the home runs that he gives up, for sure.
Exactly. This is a spot where you have to figure maybe a run line's worth it here. Tampa Bay, number 1 in the MLB as far as against the run line. They're very good when laying 1.5 runs. A couple comments.
Or you can do what I do, which is take the -1 line. You can make your own. You're going to get like 180 or something, or 185. I'm not sure what the run line is here, but that's something that I like to do a lot of times for lots of reasons, but mostly just to ease my mind psychologically when you're taking -1.5 on a home team. You can take a -1 line here if you wanted, and I'm not going to touch this game, but I think it would be justified.
Do me a favor, guys, and for Peter, retweet the show. People definitely love seeing Peter. I don't know how much they love seeing me, but they love seeing Peter. We'll get to NBA in just a second. If you have any questions, feel free, or any comments for Peter or I, feel free to leave them on the chat. We got DJ Big Boss. He's in here. DJ Big Boss, very nice guy. I met him out at the IFBC. He was always I want to say something about DJ Big Boss, actually, for just 1 second. Every time I saw him or Walter Trotter, they were always very kind to me.
Wonderful people.
Very exact, 100%. 2 guys that, I know there's like a lot of the time infighting between certain people or whatever, but those guys have always stayed neutral. They've been nice to really everybody. And look, if you're nice to me, I think the world of you. And those guys are very nice people.
I'll tell you what impressed me about DJ Big Boss. This guy knows Notre Dame football. He made a couple of calls during football season that went strongly against market moves. Didn't care at all, like a true handicapper who has an edge. He said, now I like it more. Now I like it even more that the market has moved against me. And a couple of times that happened, turned out he was dead on each time. I can't remember the exact games, what they were. There was one total where like he liked a certain total and then it moved like, 3 points, or maybe he picked it after it had moved or something. But there was a clear market move against his opinion. But in retrospect, he was totally right and really impressed me with his knowledge of Notre Dame football for sure.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. He definitely knows his stuff. And, Peter, one thing I will say as well, I talked about before when we did the show the other day about you and I have done videos for a long time. You remember back in the day when we used to find a college football total that we liked? You and I were dead money with those, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like some things are too good to be true, and some things are just very good and true. And a lot of times we would take those college. A lot of times, on the fringes of college football totals, like back when Hawaii would be in some bowl game and the total would be like 75 or 78, and they just couldn't make the total high enough. And it seemed kind of obvious when we would talk about it. We would sort of talk each other out of overthinking it, I think, and just pulling a trigger on obvious plays. Yeah, fun times, big man.
I remember back with Bowling Green a few years ago when Dino Babers was there. They would play like Toledo, and the total was like 71, and you're thinking, well, this is going to be 54 or 50 or something.
Let's talk about one game. A lot of times, the best bets in sports betting can be either betting on an awesome team that the market can't just. We're talking about the fringes here. The market can't just catch up with, or a team that's just so bad that the market just has a hard time catching up with how bad that team is. And I think we might be in the midst of that with Miami. I think there might be extended value, at least for a couple of weeks, if not longer, either betting against Miami or betting on their team total unders. The market's taken a surprising move in favor of Miami, but I'm thinking that Chicago on the second half. That's, I think, is my biggest bet of the card. I took Chicago on the second half line at -135. This guy Lopez for Miami has some nice upside, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is a close game after 5 innings or so. Quintana's been great, but he's coming off a strong start. He might be a little bit, he might have a little bit of a comeback down to earth kind of start here. And I took Chicago on the second half, -135. It's interesting that the market has moved in Miami's favor. I don't want to fade that. First half under might be justifiable as well. But in general, I think there's still fade value with Miami, either betting against them or betting on their team total unders.
I got to tell you, I mean, I want to make this very clear. I fucking hate these teams. I hate both of them. I've lost more money with these prick teams, both of them, this year already than I have with any other team in the MLB combined, all of them combined. Last night, okay, for instance, I took the fucking Marlins. I like Trevor Richards. Yes, I like the way he was pitching. Yu Darvish had been a complete mess. The line made no sense, and I grabbed the Marlins. I'm done with both these teams. I give teams like 4 or 5 games a lot of time and say, well, you know what? If I see it, I see it. I'm going to keep rocking with them. I can't figure either of these groups out. Peter, Mets, Phillies. A lot of people talking about this game in the chat. They're starting to worry around here in Philadelphia. Nola last night was poor. You got to wonder what's going on. And again, I'm going to say this. Why the fuck don't you go out and get Dallas Keuchel if you're the Phillies? Go out and get yourself a left-handed arm. You have no lefties in this rotation. This needs to happen because you look at it again tonight. Nick Pivetta has not been good. Gabe Kapler says that there's some things going on with his pitches. Is he going to be more aggressive? Steven Matz has been terrific, very good. This is a lineup that can be decent. Pivetta, is this too good to be true? Pivetta needs to get locked down, but none of these pitchers have seemed to lock anything down for the Phillies.
Obviously the Mets, as you know, have owned Philly pretty much going back quite a while now. I can't even remember it, especially on the road. And that's something that I haven't, a lot of times Philly's a great town. Great town, Philly. But a lot of times I've noticed going back like 20 years, 30 years, that teams tend to underperform. Home teams in Philly just tend to be overvalued. They tend to underperform at home. But I think I like Philly tonight. The market has moved in Philly's favor, which should tell you something because, the fact that Pivetta struggled and Mets has been great is no secret to anyone. The fact that the Mets have owned Philly, going back a while now, is no secret to anyone. Markets moved in Philly's favor. I was leaning Philly anyway, and now with a market move, I like it a little bit more. I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with Pivetta. Hopefully, they'll be able to work with the pitching coach and fix his issues for tonight. But I am on Philly. Nothing huge, nothing crazy here. Matz is good, but he's also a guy who's a little bit. I don't know what the word is, physically frail. He's a guy who I like to fade after he's put a couple of strong starts together because, he throws a slider, which can be tough on the arm. So I'm liking Philly tonight, despite the fact that Pivetta has not been good this year, despite the fact that the Mets have owned Philly. And that's what I'm liking. I think there's probably still a little bit of value at minus 111 and maybe even take a shot with a -1 line where you're getting a nice positive line. That's another bet I made. I took Detroit and I took Philly as well. That's what I did.
Like it. Peter, Seattle, they've lost 4 in a row. What do you think here? Obviously, coming off being swept by Houston, lost last night against Cleveland. You got Mike Leake against Bieber. People like Cleveland. I mean, this team really has struggled. They're one of the worst offenses in the major leagues. But again, I mean, this line makes very little sense. You look at Cleveland. No one likes Cleveland. No one's betting them. But you look at 61% of the money coming in on the Indians. They're now a 120-ish favorite.
Yeah.
Are you starting to see a little chink in Seattle's armor? I mean, they're at home here. This might be a good spot to maybe kind of go against it, break the losing streak here and get a win. You can't lose 5 in a row, can they?
Yes, they can. And I was thinking about, Leake is a guy who I've had. He's one of these pitchers who's I haven't had a great read on at times in over the past couple of years. He's a guy who I feel like I've expected him to be more vulnerable than he actually has been. I think a lot of people have fallen into that trap as well with him. I'm tempted to pull a trigger on Cleveland team total over, not on a win here for Cleveland, but on the team total over. The line has moved in Cleveland's favor, and what does that tell you? That someone's expecting either a good start from better than expected start from Bieber or a worse than expected start from Leake, and I think that's the more likely scenario here. So I'm tempted to take a shot with Cleveland team total over 3.5. Like -145 or so. And that's the way I'm leaning this one. As far as the side is concerned, I'm off of it. Very, very slight lean to the over as well at 8. But I think if I'm going to take a shot with the over, I'll just stick with the Cleveland team total over. That's the way I'm leaning this one right now.
Mike Leake, home run problems.
I'm sorry?
Mike Leake having home run problems.
Yeah. He should be. I've gotten burned betting against him quite a bit over the past few years, but thinking about doing it again tonight.
We got couple people joining us here. Margarita, she's in here. Al Hard. Luciano is in here. Dennis Sykov, Nelson Reynoso. We also have Donald Trump in here, Making America Great. Nice to see him in here. He's saying, Peter, are you planning on going back to Costa Rica? No, right?
I don't fucking know. I barely know what I'm going to be doing tomorrow, let alone, in a week. I have no clue, right?
Peter just flies to the sun, man. Whatever happens, happens. That's definitely dope. I know he's in New York right now. He's hanging out. He's doing his thing. Really nomadically. I like that. You definitely loving that. Ski Profit's in here. Ski Profit, very
shout out to Ski Profit. Ski Profit, congratulations on kicking fucking ass in NBA. Really freaking impressive. Don't think I haven't noticed. Congratulations, Ski Profit. That's all I have to say to him. Congratulations, Ski Profit. Kicking ass in NBA.
He's another guy that I want to shout out. I've talked with Ski Profit many times on a personal level. He's a young guy. He's doing his thing. Look, I'm not very helpful, I guess you could say, to a lot of these guys. But Ski Profit's a guy I really like. He's always been very kind. He does his thing. He knows his NBA, and I'm definitely excited to talk to him down the road. He does good things, and it's nice to see because he wanted something and he went out and kind of created it himself. Something that he doesn't complain and whine that no one will give him a shot. He just goes out and does it. And he's a guy that I definitely enjoy seeing.
Polar opposite of me is what he sounds like. Congratulations, Ski Profit, for having a great attitude in life, for sure.
Great point. That's a good point. He's actually the polar opposite of me as well. I'm very negative and pessimistic.
You go for it, big man on campus. You go for it. That's one thing I admire about you.
Well, that might be true, but I am a negative. That is one thing.
Right.
And I want to get Ski's opinion here in just a little when we talk about some NBA, which he's by the way, we will have Andrew McGinnis on in a little bit to talk NHL. And Peter, if you want to hang on, you can as well.
Sure. I'm passing on the NHL playoffs right now, but yeah.
Very good. There was something else I wanted to bring up.
I'm going to be fully up to speed on MLB this weekend, though. Mark my words. I'm not currently fully up to speed. I'm about half up to speed. I'm going to be fully up to speed. I'm just looking at some of these matchups. I know that in a couple of days, I'm going to be an expert on everything that there is to know about these matches. Right now, I haven't caught up as much as I would like to be caught up.
It's a long season, and I want to say one more thing about the kind words for a lot of people. Here's one thing though, and I'm going to say this, and Peter, I know you know about this. You got to be the same way whether you win or lose. You got to face the facts every time, whether you win or lose. You're going to have. I've had a lot of negative reflection time over the last 6 months. There's been times where I didn't think anything would go my way from a sports betting situation. You just got to keep going. Not every time's going to be great. You got to just keep going, keep moving forward. And Peter, you know about that. You know about negativity. You got to just keep going. Life will change. Life will get fine, and life will figure it out. So for guys like Ski and for all you guys, just remember, bad things will come. They're not going to be great forever. It's how you did it. And I've noticed Ski has always been able to continue to keep his head the right way, which is very good. Red Girl's in here.
Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. That's life. Big man on campus. That's life.
The great Francis Albert said that. Great point, Peter. Red Girl's in here. I want to shout out Red Girl as well. We used to do a call-in show in Chicago when I was at SBR, and she would call in a good NBA totals player or a college totals Red Girl, a good better, very nice girl as well. Does I believe she does some writing in her spare time. Very smart person. What else do we have here, Peter? Let's cut the small talk and let's get into some NBA. Before we do that, any other Major League Baseball game?
The boat might have sailed on this one, but definitely Toronto, Minnesota appears to have overwritten all over it. And I'm more interested in the Toronto team total over. I will admit that I did take a shot with that. I got 3.5. I forgot what odds I got. Gibson is a guy who maybe a little bit like Leak, where he seems like he should be worse than he is. At times, he is a lot better than his metrics would indicate. But I think that, and Toronto, of course, has been struggling a bit offensively. I think they should continue to break out of it a bit. I took a shot with the Toronto team total over 3.5. I think I got 150 or something like that. If Gibson comes in and throws 8 innings and gives up 1 run, it won't be a shock to me. The market has bet the line up, and that's the only other play that I took. Toronto team total over at 3.5.
Very good. What do we got here? A nice call on Sixers last night. Yeah, that was a good one. That was pretty easy. Kind of like grabbing those and saying, well, I expect them to bounce back here. Can Portland win this series? Someone asked. I don't think, and I'm going to get into that in just a second when we talk about Portland and the Thunder. Alex Ramirez asking for a shout out. Shout out to you, man.
Huge shout out to Alex Ramirez.
I hate shout outs personally.
Okay.
Again, I feel they offer little to no confirmation, but I will shout him out. He seems like a nice guy. I guess we've just given out. I feel like a shout out's more of like a personal thing. Like when I want to hear something personal about that person that makes me want to hear about them. Just giving people shout outs, I feel
I agree.
It's a little cheap, and I want to just give shout outs to everybody. All of you are terrific. You're very good people. And I respect you all give me a shot to listen to me and Peter as well. Peter, let's do a little NBA.
All right.
I want to first, and again, we don't have to give an opinion on every game if it's not there. Magic and Raptors. The likelihood of them shooting 48% from 3, the Magic is low. Kyle Lowry's not going to not score a point in this game like he did the other day. This has been a big move up. Toronto's getting all sorts of play here. I think Sharps, Public, I think everyone really thinks at this point Toronto's going to lay the smackdown tonight. You had a weird performance in game 1.
Yeah.
Kind of expect a Sixer kind of bounce back from Toronto tonight where they just kind of take it in stride and handle business. But this Orlando team all year, Peter, has been quite sneaky, I guess is a good word.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to figure they're not going to shoot 48% from 3, and Kyle Lowry is going to score some points in this game.
Yeah. I look at something like this. I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to lay Toronto the points on first half, but I was thinking maybe Toronto first half team total over, which should be about, let me see what that would be. Maybe that's the safest way of playing this. I mean, obviously, you want to bet on a bounce back from Toronto in some way, and I think it comes offensively. And if you don't want to lay the points there, I've had the one thing that I've done well in NBA is team totals, and specifically with team totals in situations like these. It obviously feels like a bounce back spot for Toronto, and I think they come out and have a big offensive performance. I'm just checking right now what the first half team total would be for Toronto. Does that make sense to you, big man? Ski Profit, if he's watching, does that make sense to you, Ski Profit? I mean, if you want to lay Toronto, you got to lay -7 on the first half, but the team total is just 57.5, which is
I think maybe in these situations, and again, I don't do this. I can't remember if I ever done this. Maybe a first quarter bet -4.5. I mean, you have to think if Toronto's going to come out here with a little fervor. You look at also the Toronto was horrendous in fast break defense, transition defense. You got to feel like Nick Nurse figures that out here. The regression's going to come, and you'd have to expect Toronto to get back on defense, if you will. It was just a weird game in game 1. It's just that simple. And I think we'd expect a big early bounce back. The 7 in the first half's a lot, but I look at this game and kind of think to myself, I just have the feeling this is, 120, 106 or something, where, Orlando kind of maybe hangs, at one point in the third quarter or something, and then they just kind of pull away. But I think Toronto comes out here and is up like 31-23. At the end of the first quarter. I expect a better defensive performance from that group, particularly. Wanted to
you don't like the first half team total over, which would be like 57 or so.
Yeah,
I know that's high for a playoff game, but Toronto they played Orlando at the end of at the beginning of the month, didn't they? Let me find that game. And it was a relatively high scoring game, and Orlando jumped out to a big lead.
Both these defenses quite good. Pace is particularly there. I think for me, and again, I want to make this clear. I think Toronto wins big, but here's why I'm not betting Toronto. I'm going to tell you why I'm not betting Toronto, because I'm getting the worst number here. I'm not betting 10.5. Look, I didn't get 8.5 or 9 even at the beginning. I'm not going to lay a bad number here. I'm going to look for maybe another way. This isn't going to be an official play or anything. I do think Toronto come out, and I think defensively they're much better. I think they work some things out. And again, Kyle Lowry is not going to go over in this game. They're not going to give up 48% shooting. The team total is interesting. You're basically hoping that they get to 60, which is maybe a little rich. I think first quarter, if I'm not looking to lay the 10.5 here, first quarter looks pretty good. I could see, 30 to 23, something like that. I'm going to kind of lean that way here. Ski Prophet mentioning some good things about the defenses for both teams. But yeah, I mean, again, this isn't the best game on the board, I don't think, tonight, Peter.
I don't think I'm going to touch any of these NBA games. Certainly interesting to talk about them, though.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm just not going to bet a bad number. It's that simple. I never do it. It's very rare that I do it. And look, I've often talked about this, even in college basketball. When I put a play out, an overnight, and I get a bad number, I get irritated with that. It's my progressions and ways of thinking. I don't want to get a bad number, and I feel shitty when I get one just because I maybe count the game wrong. Spurs Nuggets. You got Spurs getting 7 here. This one's moved up as well. It's the good old zigzag theory here, Peter. Yeah. Many people believe that you lose one, you come back. Look, if Denver loses tonight, the series is over. It's that simple. Yeah. They're not going to go to San Antonio and sweep them. It's just not going to happen. I will say this. This is another case of not moving on the right number. 208 was an opener. I thought that was a bit low. Now you're getting up to 210. These teams aren't going to completely – I mean, I think in the first game, Peter, the Denver Nuggets had not one fast break point. That's quite amazing, really.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I said at the beginning of the series. I was liking the Spurs because I thought that, well, first of all, Denver's vulnerable to the three, and the Spurs, I think, led the league in 3-point percentage. If I'm not mistaken, they shot well from three. They shot like 40% up from three on the year. So when they shoot like 46% in the first game, that's not that far off from their average. And I think they match up well defensively with Denver. Denver hates to shoot mid-range shots, and the Spurs are great at getting game plans to force teams to shoot mid-range shots. And I don't know. I understand why people think that this is going to be a bounce back spot for Denver, quote unquote. But I don't know. The Spurs getting 7 here, very tempting. I mean, why would they not? I think they can shoot 40% again from three. And, the rebounding should again be relatively even. And the Spurs should again play a good defensive game plan, I think,
Yeah, I'm kind of agreeing with you. I thought initially when I looked at this series, I didn't really have much of an opinion on it. I know you mentioned the Spurs, and you talked about how good they are at home. I'm starting to look at this Nuggets team, and I'm starting to say to myself, okay, I get Nikola Jokic is really good. I get that. But outside of them, do they really have that bucket getter, that great player?
No,
I think they're sorely overrated. I thought at certain points this season they were really good. I'm not going to ever say that, but I mean, you look at this group. I mean, Jamal Murray's solid, Gary Harris, but there's no star on this team outside of Jokic. And again, to get the ball to Jokic, Jokic isn't a guy that can necessarily put the ball on the floor and go get a bucket. I mean, he's a guy that sits up down low, and he's not a Joel Embiid. You're not going to ever see that from him, really. I'm starting to think that this team just is going to play a team that just has much more experience. They're better coached, and they kind of get slapped in the mouth. I think you hit it right on the head when you talked about this series. If I'm looking at this game tonight and I'm seeing 7 points, it's totally contrarian. You're going the other way. I don't have a problem being on that side. 7 points, a lot of points in the NBA, especially within you look at even in the NHL. I mean, sometimes a team is just a bad matchup for another team.
Yes. I think this is a bad matchup for the Nuggets, and my official pick on this one was Spurs plus 1.5 games. I think it was plus 105 or something like that. But yeah, look, I haven't bet this one, and I'm probably not going to. But if you gave me a free bet right now on this game, definitely I'd put it on the Spurs at plus 7. Now, of course, I would defer to King Rail and Ski Profit and all those guys, but that's my take on this one. What do you think about OKC though? We were talking about OKC against Portland, and I was talking about. Do you mind if I move on?
Oh, real quick, I just wanted to throw one thing out. Ski Profit's discussing DeRozan and how he kills the Nuggets. You also look at in Greg Popovich's career, he has destroyed this Nuggets team in his career. You look at since he came into the NBA, He's 34-14 against the spread in Denver. And over the last decade, 16-5 in Denver, covering spreads by an average of 6 points per game. He's been very good against Denver for whatever reason. Spurs aren't a great road team. And look, do I expect the Spurs to win tonight? No, but if you're going to give me 3 possessions plus, or 3 possessions here, I'll gun to the head take that play. Let's move on though, and I think you and I will both have most of our opinion on this game. I had the Thunder on Sunday. I had the 3.5. Look, I thought, frankly, the fact that I was even in the game late was a blessing. I mean, Paul George was horrific. You look at the 3-point percentage, 15%, which is the lowest 3-point percentage in playoff history. They were horrendous. Cantor had a career game. Thunder didn't do anything well. They were horrific defensively, and they still were right into the game. I think this is a bounce-back spot. I think this Spurs is going to go 7. I'm gladly going to take the 1.5 tonight. I just don't think they're a great matchup for Portland. I think Portland will have a little bit more trouble scoring tonight. I think the indication of what the Thunder are on defense was what we saw in the third and fourth quarters, as opposed to maybe the first half. What do you think about this game?
I don't know, man. Well, we talked about this, and I did say that I liked OKC to win the series, but I also said that I was just worried about taking them because they just seem like a head case team, don't they? They're a team that, at times were playing, elite defense, and then their defense lagged, and they were getting a lot of transition points in the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year, they stopped being able to convert in transition, and they just feel like a head case team. I think the matchup favors OKC. It was just like a gut sense that there's something a little bit off with them, just in terms of chemistry and cohesion. Yeah, I mean, I think they should win this game, and then they probably win 2 in a row at home. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to bet this one. I did give OKC as a pick to win the series before the series, and I hope they pull it out tonight. I think they should. The market has certainly moved in that direction, but I'm not going to bet it myself. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm on the Thunder. I basically figured that once they lost game 1, I was just waiting for the number to come out.
Right.
At where it would be. I kind of thought we'd get 1 in there for 2, and I think that's indicative. I think they're a bad matchup. I just do. Their pick and roll defense of Thunder is very good. I just think it was one of those weird games, and even after being such a weird game, I kind of made this point when the Sixers lost to the Nets. For as bad as the Sixers played in game 1, they still only lost by 9. I thought they would have lost by 20 the way they played. Good teams find ways to hang out, and I think a guy like Paul George will step up when the going gets tough. Good point by Ski Profit, which I think we have to mention here. The Thunder are a horrific first half team, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
That's something that obviously we want to point out here. So are you going to bet any of these games?
And that's what I was actually going to say. Not necessarily that I was going to bet OKC on the second half, but that they're a great team to live bet. If they get down big, I think they come back and are probably a good bet at some point live betting. I'm probably going to pass on all these NBA games. There's definitely no reason to force bets. I'm sticking with MLB tonight, and that's it. But if you gave me a free play, I'd take OKC. I'd take the Spurs, and I'd take Toronto first half team total over at 57.5. If you gave me free plays on all 3 of these games, that's what I'd do.
By the way, I want to talk about Portland just quickly. Damian Lillard is fucking terrific. He is a fantastic player.
Of course.
That's another thing that I think we even out here as well. Damian Lillard was taking like 45-foot threes. You got to get up on him and guard him. He can't allow that to happen. All that stuff I think is going to even out here. Now, Peter, we're going to be talking NHL coming up. I'm not an NHL guy, but McGinnis and a couple of the other guys are. Do you want to hang out and chill, or do you want to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my record over the past 2 years has been killer in NHL. But this year, I'm just passing on the playoffs. I got a lot on my mind in general. Only so much bandwidth in here, big man on campus. So yeah, I'll hang out, but I don't have anything to contribute. But for sure.
Never a bad idea to skip things. I've been a big proponent of that in certain things. Sometimes other sports take precedence. Sometimes, listen, you do not have to bet every game because it's on TV. That's the big issue with a lot of young bettors, early bettors. They're just betting because, oh, Sunday Night Baseball's on. I got to bet that. Or, just because something's on, we got to bet it. Bet where you have an edge. Don't bet at all. Sometimes
and especially in college basketball, just because Eastern Tennessee State is playing Miami of Ohio, you don't have to handicap it and bet it. It's perfectly fine to just skip it. You know what I mean?
I've had various leagues in college basketball that I just don't bet. The MAC is the MAC I don't bet at all. The MAC, the Mid American, I don't bet it at all. It's just not something that I have any interest in. We'll be joined by McGinnis here in just a second. He should be joining us. Peter, any other baseball games you wanted to throw out that we didn't get to?
Yeah, let me just again. I'm gonna be fully. I'm committed to being fully caught up in MLB. I do have a spreadsheet in MLB. A lot of people don't know that. I do have a spreadsheet and that I use. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is an interesting point here. Ski Profit mentioned him and I have talked about this, and a lot of the time you see this in soccer. This is a big soccer bet, but I know he does it in NBA, and this is a decent angle. Maybe a halftime, full time. Blazers in the first half, Thunder in the second half.
Sure,
6-1. That's not a bad price there.
Yeah, it definitely sounds good. I just feel like with a team like OKC, they're the kind of team that I just probably want to maybe wait and do live bets with instead of doing something like that. Because what happens if unexpectedly they have an explosive first half and then they do the opposite and let the Portland back in the second half? Could easily see, but yeah, for sure. I mean, it certainly seems that way.
Definitely an interesting angle there, Ski Profit. Fascinating, really. If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them out. We have a couple of minutes here. We got 4 NHL games that we're going to get to. We have a possible closeout game tonight for the New York Islanders. And Peter, if you know, the other day I told you the Islanders are going to win the Stanley Cup. Okay,
you did. That's right, you did. You did.
Last year. I picked the Vegas Golden Knights to win the NHL Stanley Cup. I had them at 30-1, and they came up short, right? I am telling you, the New York Islanders are going to win the Stanley Cup. It's that simple. To either get with it or get lost. We are Islander fans on this show. We shout out to the Collie out in Long Island. Shout out to the Collie. I know, Peter, you're not too far from there. Shout out to the Collie. The New York Islanders, some of the best fans in the NHL. And I know that they're better fans than really anybody. I know Canadians fans think they're great and everything, and Calgary and Edmonton and all these great Canadian teams. But the truth of the matter is this New York Islander team and fan base are the class of the NHL, and they are going to win the Stanley Cup playoffs. We got a very tan and green-shirted Andrew McGinnis. Andrew, how you doing? You're here with Peter and I, 2 legends in this business. How do you do?
Good. This is my first time on with Peter as well. And man, you talk about a humbling experience. I mean, you're talking about Ski Profit and all those guys that quietly made a name for themselves. I just want to say, for myself personally, I just tried to kind of quietly come in, be respectful, be as professional as I can, and Big man, I don't say it to you enough, but I really do appreciate you having me on and how kind you've been to me. And Peter, when I've been commenting on your shows with SBR and all that stuff. So,
yes, always appreciated it.
So being on here, I love talking about hockey and different sports and all that stuff, but it's very humbling. It's a great experience to be able to kind of just talk to everybody I can. So it's good to be here with you guys. I'm ready to talk some hockey. And also, I'm Canadian, so go Raps.
Yeah, well, listen, before we get into NHL quickly, Peter and I both agreed. I mean, obviously, you'd expect a big-time bounce back tonight. The question is, though, in our circle is, will they cover the number? I made it clear I'm not betting 10.5. I would. Look, if you said to me, pick the game or I'm going to blow your head off, I would take the Raptors. But I am not betting this number at 10.5. I couldn't get 8.5. I'm not going to bet it at a bad number. And then before we also get into hockey, I want to hear, Andrew, give me your opinion there. What do you think here quickly about Tampa Bay and Columbus? And then we'll get into the rest of the card. Tampa Bay down 3-0. What a surprise this is. This has to be one of the biggest surprises. John Tortorella, Torts, is leading Columbus to possibly another big-time run in the Stanley Cup playoffs. What do you think about this, Andrew, and what do you think about Raptors as well?
I'll start with the Raptors stuff before we get into the NHL action. And first and foremost, I want to say, guys, and I hope this isn't really too much of an underrated opinion, but I truly, truly miss Jonas Valanciunas right about now.
Yeah.
How many 3-point attempts did we have Marc Gasol take that were either way off, in and out? It could be Nick Nurse's fault, guys, but you got to put your players in a position to succeed. He was brought over to the Raptors to be tough, to be a great defensive player, to defend the paint. But I barely saw him in the paint. We weren't seeing any pick and rolling. It was all pick and pop. It was high screens. That last play, Orlando shooting, I believe, 46% 3-pointers out of over a certain margin of time.
48.
And yet, 40, yeah. And at a certain point, you got to wonder, why are you going under on screens? That game winner was a 3-pointer, and both Kawhi and I believe Marc Gasol went under the screen. It's unbelievable. You don't get how it happens. And I heard you guys talking about Kyle Lowry. Of course, he's not going to have back-to-back shitty performances, but when it comes down to it, guys, I'm sick and tired of hearing anybody at all letting him off the hook whatsoever. He should not be. I don't care if he had 20 assists that game. I seriously don't. If you're going to be a guy, he is still one of the guys that's counted on to score. He moves the ball, of course, but he still has to be. If you show throughout a whole regular season what you're capable of, and you take these terrible, horrific pull-up 3-pointers, you take these terrible floaters that always work in the regular season, but for some reason they don't work in the playoffs, it's inexcusable, and it can't happen. So much pressure is put on Kawhi Leonard right now, and I believe he's probably going to feel, and everybody else is seeing, the pressure that DeMar DeRozan had as a Toronto Raptor when he was there in the playoffs, because nobody else has anything to say, nobody else wants to step up, and everyone's looking at the next person. Hats off to Pascal Siakam. I'm sure you guys like him as well. He's been that unsung hero for the Toronto Raptors that says, hey, if you don't want to step up, I'm going to step up, and I'm going to make that play. He's been great, but that's one point I wanted to get across, guys, is that watch tonight. Watch Marc Gasol go out there and be a lot more aggressive, be a lot more involved in the paint, because I was very unimpressed with what I saw from him in game number 1.
Interesting opinion. Yeah, look, Kyle Lowry is he's a Villanova guy. I remember him for many years. I mean, he is. I think Paul Pierce said it best. I mean, he's a regular season player. That's what he is. He's overrated, and he doesn't deserve the money he gets. But again, this is time and time again with him where he doesn't show up in the playoffs. Andrew, what do you think about Columbus and Tampa Bay? I mean, this is alarming, really, if you're Tampa Bay, but they don't get swept, do they? I mean, you got to maybe take a shot with Tampa Bay. They at least win a game, don't they? I mean, this is pathetic and embarrassing.
I took a shot with them in game 3, big man, and I'm honestly done with the sides in this game, in this series. As for right now, I'm looking at the over the total. I think that's the only way to go in this one. I feel like it's, desperation mode. I can't see Columbus slowing down, but I can't see Tampa Bay getting any worse as far as their scoring goes. They got Kucherov back in the lineup. I believe Stroman is still out, but they still have some guys coming back from defense. And the fact is, they got to stop being so fancy. They got to fire everything on net. They gotta make adjustments. You mentioned it about John Tortorella. He is out coaching John Cooper completely. You talk about how in NHL, I heard you and Peter talking about matchups in NBA. Well, this is a bad matchup for Tampa Bay. Completely. The players that they picked up, Columbus, at the trade deadline, Ryan Dzingel, Matt Duchene, those guys are making an immediate impact. I mean, Duchene wasn't doing that great when he first came over before the playoffs started, but it doesn't matter. As long as you're making that impact in the playoffs, the ability for them to slow the game down has been the biggest adjustment that Tortorella has made, because they're known for being so fast. Tampa Bay is usually that team that can, turn the puck over right away and have a 3-on-1 rush the other way right away. But Columbus's defensemen shut that down. They're aggressive. They don't waste time getting the puck out of their own end, and that's the biggest key for them. I feel like Columbus's defensemen, they know their role. They don't jump into the rush. They don't try and be too fancy with the puck. They get it out, and they take their time with it. And that's really what's causing the most frustration for Tampa Bay. And when you look at the playoffs, I mentioned it with you yesterday, big man, it's completely different. It's way more aggressive. And, I want to get your thoughts on this, guys, for both of you as sports fan, because as much as I am a huge hockey advocate, I love the playoffs and stuff like that, it kind of bothers me how it's officiated differently in the playoffs. And, I love the hard hitting. I love the fighting just as much as the next guy. But I feel like it's really at a disadvantage for teams like Tampa Bay, for teams like Calgary, teams like Toronto that are a little bit smaller, a little bit younger, a little bit softer. And that's how, in the regular season, they use those abilities. But then come playoff time, they're getting slashed. They're getting hit when, a couple seconds after they lose the puck. Certain plays like that would get called during the regular season that just aren't called in the playoffs because it's simple. It's playoff hockey. It's a little more aggressive. I believe we see a fast start to this game here tonight, but I'm looking over a total of 6. I'll be honest, big man. If I was going to pick a side here, I'd pick Columbus.
Yeah, that's
I'm chasing. You got to go with what we've seen so far. And that's why it happened with Calgary yesterday. I mean, I got my ass kicked with Calgary yesterday because I was going with based off what I knew about them throughout the entire season. But based off what we know about Columbus and Tampa Bay, what we've seen this playoffs, Columbus is the better team.
Peter, that's an interesting comment by him there. You mentioned, we've talked about matchups, and sometimes it's just a bad matchup. You look at really kind of in, over the last, basically 15 plus years in these game 4s, teams that are down 3-0, it's basically kind of a coin flip on them winning. I mean, sometimes a matchup's just bad, Peter. Peter, do you like that thought? I kind of am starting to see that maybe Columbus is just worth a look at plus money. They just close them out here. It's just a bad matchup.
No, absolutely, and I think that those kinds of things become more important in bigger games and obviously in the playoffs than they are in the regular season, because in the regular season, so many other things can mask, matchup discrepancies like fatigue, injuries, motivation, all that. But in the bigger games and in the playoffs, that both teams have maximum motivation, and in both NHL and NBA, looking at stats that indicate a matchup deficiency for one team or the other is a great way to find edges that aren't obvious based on just looking at how the teams did in their head-to-heads during the regular season. That's why I was liking the Spurs so much against Denver, even though there during the regular season those kinds of matchup discrepancies didn't necessarily show themselves, and that absolutely is the case in NHL as well.
Good stuff. Islanders and Pittsburgh. What do you think here, McGinnis? Pittsburgh landed a big number, 170. Is this a bad matchup? Just one of those bad matchups? Do you just say, all right, I'm going to just take both dogs in these games, and if just one of them hit, I'm going to make money? Do you look at it like that?
I look at a big man like out of the two teams that are facing elimination, I feel more confident taking Pittsburgh than I do Tampa Bay. And if I would have told you that at the regular season, at the beginning of the season, that if I had Tampa Bay facing elimination, or if I had Pittsburgh, I would go with Pittsburgh. I would call myself crazy. But looking at this spot here, I feel like Pittsburgh hasn't been outplayed. They've kind of outplayed themselves. And I'm not trying to discredit what the Islanders have done, big man. I'm just saying that Tampa Bay has certainly been outplayed. I mean, they haven't been losing by 1 or 2 goals. They've been losing by marginal, 5-1, 5-0, games like that. And especially when they've been up 3-0. And looking at Pittsburgh now, it's more so just that their top guys haven't shown up, and they've been making certain mistakes that they're not used to making. Being from the East Coast, Sidney Crosby is from the area where I'm from. I'm usually always a huge fan of him, but he has not shown up this playoffs whatsoever. Evgeny Malkin is supposed to be one of the best players, one of the best snipers in the league, at least at some point, one of the best Russian players at least, and he's just skating around the ice doing nothing. Bill Kessel, we haven't seen much out of him. Jake Gensel, I'm not sure where he's been in this playoffs, but I believe they still have the guys to do it, and I believe they still have the speed, and I believe we see a great game out of Matt Murray here. However, the best way to look at this is not to take the minus 170. It's take the regulation minus 105, I believe, minus 115. Somewhere in that range, you can grab it. It's kind of late now, so that's kind of the range I'll give out. But I believe out of the 2 games here, big man, that Pittsburgh kind of has the best chance to come out. For you, having that New York Islanders thought as far as going all the way, it's kind of like I mentioned to you yesterday on the show with Carolina. If they're going to be successful, they're going to have lower scoring games. If Pittsburgh scores 3 or 4 goals tonight, they win the game. There's no way that the Islanders compete in a high scoring game. They're going to be very reliant on Robin Leonard to shut things down. They're going to clog things up. If Pittsburgh scores first tonight, they're winning the game. They'll be successful, and I'd watch out for them. People are saying if Tampa Bay wins tonight, watch out for them to come back and win the series. I don't agree with that whatsoever, but I do think if Tampa Bay wins their next game tonight, but I feel like if Pittsburgh wins, they actually have a chance to come back. But Tampa Bay is done. Columbus is clearly the dominant team in that matchup right now, and I can't see if Tampa winning 4 straight, but I can see Pittsburgh actually crawling back and having a puncher's chance. When it comes down to it, it's all defense for Islanders.
Peter, any thought on this game?
Can I jump in for a second? I'll tell you what I can do while you guys talk about the last two NHL games. I'll look at the overnight lines, the overnight lines in MLB, and tell you my initial thoughts. How about that?
That sounds good. We'll get to you right at the
Okay.
end.
Okay.
Two more games here, McGinnis. Winnipeg and St. Louis. St. Louis, a rabid fan base all of a sudden. You're starting to see a lot of Blues fans. And this is actually an interesting story, quickly, McGinnis. You might not know this, but I don't know if you know that St. Louis, every time they win, they sing Gloria, that Gloria song.
Okay.
Do you know where that started? Like why they sing that?
No. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to tell you. In South Philadelphia, the neighborhood that I used to live in, we have what are called New Year's brigades. New Year's brigades are basically social clubs that throughout the year you can hang out at. You have bars in them. But a New Year's brigade is basically a group of people that participate in the Mummers Parade. They're big groups of people. They come up with ideas and things, and they march in the parade every New Year's Eve. It's a Philadelphia tradition. If you look it up, there's a New Year's brigade called the Jacks New Year's Brigade. It's a new club down on Moy-Mensing Avenue in South Philly. And one weekend, for whatever reason, some blues players were invited over to the brigade location, and they were playing that song. And it just kind of was adopted. They've been in connection with this New Year's Brigade. They've actually went out and saw them play, and they've used the song ever since, and they've went on this crazy run. So that actually started, believe it or not, in Philadelphia, and you can look that up.
Wow.
Winnipeg, St. Louis tonight. St. Louis up 2-1. Goalkeepers Hellebuck and Binnington. St. Louis laying about 150. What do you like here, St. Louis? Do they kind of keep it going here at home?
I did want to give out real quick, big man. Sorry to go back, but I forgot to give out. It's a little bit steeper of a price, but I forgot. Last year in the playoffs, Jeff, I made a pretty good amount of units taking the interesting period totals, whether it's first, second, or third. And a lot of times it's way, way, way juiced up. But in this Pittsburgh game, it's at minus 145. And I'm not the kind of person that likes to take huge prices, but I feel more comfortable taking the over in the third period at 1.5 goals than I do in the full game at the minus 110 number. Just simply off desperation, off pulling the goalies. No matter what the goal scenario is, who's up or who's down, I feel like this game could start slow and end very strong. So I just want to get that out there for everybody. So for the next time I'm on there, I can talk about that and hopefully give out some more period totals, because third period over 1.5 minus 145 for that Pittsburgh versus New York Islanders game is a play I'm really liking here tonight. As far as that St. Louis Winnipeg series goes, man, I find that so interesting, Jeff, because you got two great goaltenders. You got a great goaltender in Binnington, who's practically a rookie, and he had one of, if not the best goals against averages I've seen over a short span of time in my lifetime. And I know that's not too long of a time, but man, this guy's been outstanding. The thing is, they finally kind of cracked the seal. They kind of finally took a little bit of that armor off Jordan Binnington, and they put 6 goals up on him. The most he allowed so far all year long was 4 goals, and that was a terrible performance off of him. The question we all have to wonder is, does he bounce back, or is he a little bit rattled off that, and is it kind of a floodgates open up situation for the Winnipeg Jets? The way I look at things is that I think Winnipeg is, first of all, laying a great price here. We're getting a great underdog price. And just like I've been saying about secondary scoring and about, having more guys that can score and put the puck in the back of the net, I think the Jets have that ability. I think that St. Louis has been really, really reliant on Binnington. And people hate it when I say that, because I hate when people say that Montreal is reliant on Carey Price, but I know they are. That's the difference between me and them. I know that Montreal relies on Carey Price. These St. Louis fans are oblivious to saying that they don't rely on Jordan Binnington. I think they certainly do. And I think that Winnipeg has finally solved them. And I think that we'll see, Little, Wheeler, Ehlers, Line, these guys light things up. I mean, a guy like Kyle Connor, for how small he is, he's not the biggest guy in the arena. He has a shot. And, these guys, the way they pass the puck around, I feel like overall this Jets team is much, much better than St. Louis. And they were a little bit caught off guard when they first came out at them. And I'll give them credit. St. Louis played well. They've got some guys that can score. They got some snipers. But I think when it comes down to it, the Jets tie things up tonight, get the job done at a plus 130 price. You can't really argue with that.
One other one, San Jose and Vegas, Fleury and Jones. Vegas, laying 170-ish. We know Vegas is that great home field advantage or home ice advantage. They're up 2-1. Do they go up to go 3-1 here?
It's tough to say, big man, but one thing I'm not going to kind of avoid in this one is taking the over. You know, I've been one to. Yeah, I mean, I've been saying the funny thing is that before the regular season ended, I said, man, coming in the playoffs, I'm going to take San Jose in the over every game in the playoffs. And then, you know, I believe the first game went over, and the second game I took a shot with the under, and it absolutely just slapped me in the face. It was like, nope, like that's not going to happen whatsoever. So now it's literally one of those trends that you cannot, you know, stay away from. And it's important to mention that, you know, this San Jose Sharks team, if you look at on paper, you know, as far as like all-star defensemen go, they have so many great defensemen, big man. Like it's ridiculous. It's like you looking at a soccer back four and just having the, you know, a great impressive lineup, and then them just having countless shitty performances, because that's what we've seen out of San Jose. And not to mention their goaltending is horrific. Martin Jones has given his team zero chance to win over the past 2 games. Zero. And you know, the rebound control that he has, his glove slide has been terrible. He's letting his team down completely. And then Joe Thornton goes ahead and absolutely shoulders the guy in the head. He's out for the game. You know, he missed time. He's not really helping out his team. Whereas you look at this Vegas team right now, you look right now at the NHL statistics on the NHL.com page. The top 3 scorers are on the exact same line. The second line for the Vegas Golden Knights, Stastny, Stone, and Pacioretty. 3 teammates, 3 players on the exact same line, the top players right now in the playoffs. And that just goes to show, first of all, George McPhee is an outstanding general manager. This is only the second year this team has been around. It's unbelievable. And the guys he's been able to pick up, the deals he's made, I feel like he could pick up anybody off the street and turn them into a great hockey player. That's how I literally feel about this general manager. So, I mean, to answer your question, part of me wanted to take San Jose, but then all the numbers and all of what I've seen so far, I kind of want to take Vegas regulation, and I do got to go with the over again, though. I'm not going away from the over. Based off what I've seen, you've got Mark-Edward Vlasic still injured, still banged up for San Jose. He's a key defenseman for San Jose. We still have incredible goaltending issues that aren't getting better anytime soon for San Jose. And then we've got guys lighting – This Vegas team, Jeff, literally has 2 top lines. They have 2 top lines. You know, half the teams in the NHL would love to have one of those lines as their top lines on their team, and yet Vegas has both of them on their team. So, you know, as for all of you Vegas fans out there, I think you're looking pretty good here once again this year, and that Mark Stone trade is really paying off. So, I think that's great. How crazy is that in the NHL playoffs, a league that's very well distributed as far as points go and skill distribution, the top 3 players are on the exact same team and the exact same line.
Andrew McGinnis, good stuff, man. Always a very detailed hockey guy. I will say, though, I think you're hanging around your boy Babano a little too long.
I am.
Good work, McGinnis. We'll, I'm sure, talk to you either tomorrow or later in the week. We can find McGinnis on Twitter at McGinnis Picks and on sportsmemo.com. Good stuff, Andrew. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jeff, and feel free to tell me to shut up. You know, I just get.
Oh, no.
I know where you're staying, but I feel like when I'm talking to certain other people and I hear them talk so much, I feel like I'm almost under-impressive unless I have enough to say. But anyway, I always appreciate your time. Thank you, guys. Good to see you, Peter.
No problem.
Yes, thank you, Andrew.
Talk to you, Andrew. See you, buddy. Peter, we got a minute or two. I got to call into Morency's show here in just a little bit. What do you like what do you like tomorrow?
Well, Arrieta's starting for Philly. I'm kind of down on him, and I'm thinking that the Mets, at the very least, Mets team total over might be worth a shot. Then at 140, St. Louis, Milwaukee, Waka against Burns. You know, we talked about Burns in his last start, and I said I liked him, and Milwaukee did beat the Dodgers in that game, and the first 5 did cash as a big underdog. Waka's definitely been struggling this year, and I think that's for real. So I think I like Milwaukee tomorrow on the -1 line, and maybe the Milwaukee team total over. And I'm also thinking that Keller and Giolito for the White Sox and KC, maybe an under and maybe a second half under in the White Sox KC game. Second half under. I'm thinking about that. The Yankees game, Eovaldi against Happ, and Happ is, a guy that I don't think should be a favorite at all. So I'm thinking maybe Boston tomorrow. They're a dog right now, so maybe the Boston reverse run line -1 or -1.5 is worth a shot. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking right now. Those are a bunch of plays I'm definitely going to be looking hard at.
Great stuff, Peter. Ahead to tomorrow's card, which is very good. Sometimes you got to get out ahead on these overnight lines.
Yes.
Good stuff. Peter, I'm sure we'll talk to you maybe later in the week.
Absolutely.
Good work as always. That's it for me, guys. That's it for Peter. We will be back tomorrow. I'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. If you have any interest, guys, you can listen to me next. I'll be on with Gabe Morency on the Fantasy Sports Network. We'll talk a little Champions League and Sixers, Raptors Thursday. Everyone have a great night. Peter, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, big man. Talk to you soon.
Sounds good, Peter. See ya. All right, guys. Catch me tomorrow. If you're new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the show. We'll definitely comment on when Peter will be on next. Always good having him. Thanks to Andrew McGinnis as well for talking some hockey. And that'll be that. You all have a great night. Bye-bye.